Buying property in Ghana can feel like navigating a maze. And just when you think you've found the dream property and you've saved up enough money to afford it, here comes the hidden costs. And one of the most misunderstood costs of all these is the buyer's agent's commission. And you may have asked yourself, do I really need an agent as a buyer? What do they even do? What do the agents do? And of course, why should I even pay them in the first place? Today, we're breaking it all down. The myths, the truth, and the real value behind that commission. Because understanding it could literally save you time, could save you a lot of stress, and also it could save you a lot of money. Now, here's the thing most people miss. In Ghana, the listed price of a property is not the full cost. There are other costs involved. You have to take care of the stamp duty, your legal fees, processing fees, land verification costs, and then there's the agent's commission. Now, some people may try to cut corners and go into it all by themselves. But then in a market like ours where documentation can be inconsistent, due diligence can be ignored, and maybe a plot can have multiple owners, having your buyer's agent on your side can be the difference between a dream home and a disaster. But before we go into this any further, we need to understand what is a buyer's agent. And it's quite simple. Now, a buyer's agent represents you, the buyer, and not the seller or the developer. He represents you. Now, their job is to help you find a property, help you to vet that property, and also negotiate the price of the property so that whatever you end up settling with will be something that will be suitable for you. So in a certain sense, they become an extension of your eyes, they become your ears, and sometimes they become your lifesaver. So if you're going to work with an agent, you need to understand the value they bring on board. But if you want to go into it all by yourself, well, you may probably want to buckle up and prepare for a rough ride, because the real truth is that agents bring a lot of value on board. So let's talk about numbers. Now, as of this month, July 2025, the buyer's commission in Ghana typically will range from about 2% to 5% of the value of the property. But then the standard commission rate, as dictated by the Ghana Real Estate Agency Council, is 5%. And I know there are agents who normally would demand a fixed price for their commission, and sometimes, if not for the commission, then maybe for some other service that they've rendered. So you may have a case where you have to pay a percentage or a fixed price. And if it's a percentage, it may range from 2% to 5%. But as I said, the standard rate is 5% of the value of the property, or you may end up paying a flat fee based on what the agent you're working with demands. So let's take an example. Let's say you're buying a property that is worth 500,000 Ghana cedis. You may end up paying anywhere from, let's say, 10,000 Ghana cedis up to about 25,000 Ghana cedis as the agent's commission. And if you're going up to maybe like a 1.5 million Ghana cedi property, your commission may end up going from, let's say, 30,000 to about 75,000 Ghana cedis. Sounds like a lot, right? But then here's what that commission will normally cover. So that commission will cover your property search based on your specific needs. It will cover the vetting of the property and verifying the ownership of the property and its title. It will cover scheduling the viewings and inspections on the property. It will cover services like negotiating for good prices and good terms for you, the buyer. It will cover things like coordinating your legal reviews and documentation, and even liaising with the Lands Commission and the local authorities to just streamline the process of you acquiring your dream property. So then you'd see that you're not just paying for someone who will find you a house, you're actually paying for protection, expertise, and also peace of mind. And let me just say this clearly. A buyer's agent is not the same as a seller's agent. A seller's agent works for the person who is selling the property. That could be the developer or just anybody selling. And their job is to get the best deal for the seller, but not you. But then when you're talking about a buyer's agent, they are legally and ethically bound to represent your interest. And that's a big difference. So the seller's agent is different. The buyer's agent is different. Now, there are some instances where you would see one agent representing both the seller and the buyer. And there can be issues with that where the buyer may feel their interests are not being properly catered to, and the developer may also feel like maybe the agent is working closely with the buyer to try to strong arm them into giving them some huge discounts and all that. And even when it comes to the issue of ethics, sometimes, this can be questionable. And if done properly, I believe that everybody can walk away very happy. The buyer will get the dream home that they really want, and also the developer will end up getting some good money without having to sacrifice too much in the name of discounts and other commitments that will be put in just to make the deal sweeter for the buyer. Now let's take some real examples that will drive this point home. So let's take a case where the buyer's name is Kofi. So Kofi buys a house in East Legon for 1.2 million Ghana cedis, and his agent's commission will be 3% based on the negotiations and all that, and that will be about 36,000 Ghana cedis. But then the agent helped Kofi to negotiate about 100,000 Ghana cedis off the asking price. So meaning that the initial price was about 1.3 million, but then because of the presence of the agent, he's been able to get 100,000 Ghana cedis knocked off the asking price. Now, they also uncovered that the seller hadn't paid the property taxes for a number of years, and the agent made sure that those things were cleared before the deal closed. Because if the seller hasn't paid the property taxes on the property, and you buy the property, you're actually buying that problem. You're actually buying that debt. So it will end up being your prerogative to pay or clear that cost. So the agent in this case found out that the property owner or the developer didn't pay property taxes on the property for a number of years, and helped the buyer to bring that up, and also help the buyer to avoid issues by getting the developer to pay off those costs that may be a problem down the line. So you see that commission of about 36,000 Ghana cedis actually ended up saving Kofi nearly double that amount, and also it ended up protecting him from a legal mess. So you can argue that, why should I pay an agent and all that? Now, that 36,000 Ghana cedis commission that Kofi paid to his agent actually is worth it, because the agent saved Kofi about 100,000 Ghana cedis off the asking price of the property, and also that agent uncovered an issue with outstanding property taxes not paid. And if there was no agent involved, Kofi would have probably gone into that deal. He may have probably got some negotiation done by himself and all that, but he may have missed out on some of these loopholes and some of these issues that will come up over time that could be a mess in the long run. Now let's take a look at a second case, a little different, but then in the end it drives the point home. Now let's say another buyer called Amma, hypothetical, and Amma wants to buy a property in an apartment complex, and the fee quoted to her is about 400,000 Ghana cedis, and she gets an agent who is charging her about 8,000 Ghana cedis in commission. It may sound like a lot, but then imagine that agent ends up getting Amma a similar unit in the same development that should have gone for about 400,000 Ghana cedis, and that unit will now go for 370,000 Ghana cedis. That is 30,000 Ghana cedis saved by Amma. And if she pays the agent 8,000 Ghana cedis, well, she still has 22,000 Ghana cedis that she has saved by virtue of having an agent represent her. And you can say that agents earn a lot of money and all that, but then when you see the value they deliver, well, it becomes more of a no-brainer. So the lesson here is that a good agent pays for themselves, and then even some more. Now, if you're thinking of negotiating that commission with the agents, here are some tips that may come in useful. Now, you need to ask if that fee is fixed or negotiable. You need to compare agents and their track records. You also need to be clear on what services are included in that fee, and maybe if there is some extra cost to some other service that they may render. And sometimes you may want to consider splitting that commission in stages. So you pay parts at the initial stages when you're making the initial payments for the property, and then you can pay the rest at closing when your property is being handed over. And also do well to get all this in writing. We're not just going to shake hands over this deal and assume everything is okay. So you may want to sign the agent's commission agreement. Is very, very important, because in the end, whether you pay the commission or not, hopefully you pay, but then whatever happens, there's a document that is binding you and the agent and the agreement you have, and everything is well documented. So maybe if the agent is demanding something outside of the arrangement that you have, you can always go back to the signed agreement and then dig things up. It will serve as some form of indemnity for you, the buyer, but then more importantly, it makes sure that due process is followed and everything is streamlined and there is a trail that can be followed should there be a need for dispute resolution. Here's what many buyers often underestimate. Now, a great agent has access to many listings that may never make it online. It may not be on the listing platforms online, and he may have access to off-market deals, distressed properties, and even motivated sellers. And by this, I mean sellers who probably for some reason need some quick cash, so they're willing to drive some good bargains just so that they can sell off or offload that property and get the money they want at the time. And if you're finding out, you're going out looking for properties by yourself, you may never know who all these people or all these motivated sellers are. You may never know if a property is being sold at a distressed amount. You may never know all the ins and outs, but then the agents know all these. So you'd see that getting an agent is not just about having someone who will introduce you to a property, and in the end, you want to take some big paycheck for almost no work done. It's not like that. If you have a good agent, you're going to get good value for any amount or any money you end up paying that agent as their commission. So agents will end up saving you weeks or even months of you driving around, calling numbers that are not going through, and even dealing with other shady people in the industry. They know the red flags and they can spot fake documents, unapproved plans, family land disputes, and all that. They know the right lawyers, they know the honest surveyors, and they also know the developers that are trusted. A good agent will save you from making a costly mistake, and yet some buyers will end up hesitating to pay that commission. And you see, imagine you're buying a property for 2 million Ghana cedis, and then you don't have an agent and you end up losing that money. I mean, that agent's commission could have been 20,000 Ghana cedis, and that could have been the difference between you losing 2 million Ghana cedis or you actually getting the property of your dreams by not being duped or by not being scammed. So you see, the value of an agent is, in a certain sense, almost non-negotiable. But it depends on the kind of agent you're working with, if they are good at what they do, if they are trusted, or if maybe you're just looking at some roadside person who has posted his number that when you're looking for a 3-bedroom house, call me. So then one big question you must ask yourself when you're dealing with an agent is this: what is your peace of mind worth to you? Is that worth you trying to do it all by yourself and not paying that agent's commission? Or is it worth it by bringing an agent on board and actually paying that commission? So let's tie everything together and do a recap. The buyer's agent commission in Ghana ranges from between 2% to 5% of the price of the property, or sometimes could be a flat rate. And you're not just paying for some sort of a tour guide. You're paying for security, for experience, and also leverage. A good buyer's agent will help you avoid being defrauded, will help you find good deals, and also navigate very complex scenarios, very complex transactions with confidence. And you'd see that not all agents are the same. So choose wisely, and when you're choosing, ask tough questions. And after you've chosen, get your agreements in writing and signed. If you're thinking of buying property soon, remember that it's not just about what you're paying, it's also about what you're getting. And if this episode gave you some clarity, help someone else by sharing this episode with them. You can subscribe, of course. Please do subscribe, like, and also share experiences working with agents with us, so we can all have a better idea of what it is like to work with agents in Ghana. I'm Desmond Kafui, and this is Ghana Ground Up. I'll catch you in the next episode.